This is a question that divides nations, communities, people. Imagine a courtroom, the air thick with tension, as a judge reads the final verdict: death. In that moment, justice and morality collide. The sentence is ultimate, irreversible, and echoes far beyond the walls of the court. Capital punishment or the death penalty is more than a legal decision. It is a mirror reflecting the soul of a society. It asks us what we value, what we fear, and how far we're willing to go in the name of justice. For some, it represents righteous retribution, a way to honor victims and deter evil. For others, it is a dark stain on humanity, a cruel relic of a more barbaric time. The debate is far from academic. It shapes laws, fuels protests, impacts elections, and raises profound ethical questions. Can a flawed system wield the power to end life without crossing a moral line? Is it justice served or injustice institutionalized? In a world striving toward greater human rights and equality, the question demands an answer. Is capital punishment morally acceptable? What is capital punishment? Capital punishment, or the death penalty, is the legal process where a person is put to death by the state as punishment for a crime, typically for murder or other heinous offenses. Methods vary and include lethal injection, electric chair, firing squad, hanging, and more. And while the practice has ancient roots, it remains a controversial topic in today's legal and moral discourse. The case for capital punishment. 1. Deterrence. Supporters argue that the death penalty deters violent crime. The logic is simple. Fear of death prevents people from committing capital offenses. However, the data is mixed, and many studies suggest no significant deterrent effect. 2. Retribution versus revenge. Some see capital punishment as retributive justice, a way to ensure the punishment fits the crime. Unlike revenge, which is emotional and personal, retribution is about balance and fairness within the justice system. 3. Closure for victims' families. For families of victims, knowing that the perpetrator has faced the ultimate punishment can provide a sense of closure and justice. The case against capital punishment. 1. Irreversible error. What if the system gets it wrong? Innocent people have been sentenced to death, and once carried out, the mistake is irreversible. That's 2. Disproportionate impact. Studies have shown that race, income level, and geography can influence who receives the death penalty, raising concerns about systemic bias. 3. Moral contradiction. Many argue that taking a life to prove killing is wrong is inherently hypocritical. Coretta Scott King once said, "You cannot teach that killing is wrong by killing." 4. No proven deterrent effect. Multiple studies across decades show that states or countries with capital punishment do not necessarily have lower murder rates than those without it. Ethical and religious perspectives. Philosophers remain divided. Kantian ethics suggests that if someone takes a life, they deserve to lose theirs. It's a matter of justice. Utilitarianism argues against it unless it brings more overall good than harm. Religious views also vary. Christianity and Buddhism often emphasize forgiveness and the sanctity of life. Islam and some strands of Judaism support it in extreme cases, but stress strict judicial standards. The global shift, where the world stands. The global trend is clear. More and more countries are abolishing capital punishment. Over 70% of nations have either outlawed it or have not used it in over a decade. The United Nations has repeatedly called for a global moratorium. Even in countries that still use it, public opinion is shifting. In the US, support for the death penalty is at a historic low. Many now see life imprisonment without parole as a more ethical and equally severe punishment. Conclusion: justice or moral failure? The question of capital punishment is not one of black and white. It is entangled in our deepest fears, our sense of justice, and our belief in redemption or retribution. At its core, it demands we ask, What kind of society do we want to be? Supporters argue it's a necessary tool, a means of delivering ultimate justice to the most heinous offenders. But critics warn that no system is infallible, and once a life is taken by the state, no apology can bring it back. The risk of injustice, the potential for reform, and the moral weight of killing in the name of justice all beg us to reflect more deeply. As the world continues to shift away from the death penalty, perhaps we are being called not just to re-examine our laws, but to evolve our sense of justice itself. True justice may not lie in the power to destroy life, but in the courage to uphold it, even when it's hardest. In the end, capital punishment asks more than whether the guilty should die. It asks who we are when we choose to kill, and who we might become if we choose another way. And maybe in a truly just world, the death penalty will have no place at all. Here are some questions and answers. 1. Is capital punishment legal everywhere? No. Over 70% of countries have abolished it in law or practice. 2. Does the death penalty deter crime? Studies show little to no evidence that it effectively deters violent crime. 3. Can capital punishment be morally justified? This depends on your ethical framework. Retributive justice may say yes, while human rights perspectives often say no.